It's time for a Boston Bruins reality check because there's a pretty big gap between the results we're seeing on the ice lately and how this team is actually playing.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Ian McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team and the NHL for various major outlets for nearly 20 years. Today on the podcast, we are going to discuss the pretty big gap between Boston's actual goal differential and their expected goal differential and what that tells us about the state of this roster. We will also update the Eastern Conference power rankings and preview tonight's pretty big game against the Detroit Red Wings. All right, now we are coming off a weekend in which the Bruins beat the Rangers by a score of 10-2. They shut out the Pittsburgh Penguins 1-0. And as a result, the Bruins are tied with the Buffalo Sabres for the second wild card spot, albeit they don't have the tiebreaker. So they sit on the outside looking in with a +6 goal differential and a .565 point percentage. We'll rank the Eastern Conference teams coming up a little bit later on, but I wanted to take a quick look at Boston's results so far versus kind of their underlying numbers and what it tells us about this team. So right now, like I said, the Boston Bruins have a record of 25-19-2 with a +6 goal differential, and they've won 3 games in a row. And they are right in the thick of things when it comes to playoff teams in the Eastern Conference. They're tied with Buffalo, Philadelphia, Washington for points, and only the Maple Leafs, Islanders, Canadiens, Lightning, Red Wings, and Hurricanes have more points than the Bruins so far. The Bruins, however, have played more games than most teams in the Eastern Conference, and point percentage-wise, they're actually 12th right now in the Eastern Conference. And while we were excited about their performance against the Rangers and the Penguins, this weekend alone, their goal differential went from -3 to +6. A pretty big swing. And when you look at their expected goals versus their actual goals on paper, it tells us that the Bruins are exceeding expectations, let's say. The Bruins have, at even strength, or 5-on-5, I should say, where the majority of the game is played, they actually have a positive goal differential and rank 8th in the NHL. In terms of goal differential, 5-on-5. They have scored 98 goals and they've allowed 89 for a 52.41 goal differential at 5-on-5, which is pretty good. Only 7 teams have better goal differentials at 5-on-5. But if you look at the expected goal differential, it tells us a much different story. And for those of you unfamiliar with expected goals, it's basically looking at a bunch of different factors that tell us how teams are playing, right? Goal differential tells us what has happened. The Bruins have scored 98 goals. They've allowed 89 goals. Pretty simple. Expected goals, though, tells us what should have happened based on the quality and the quantity of shots for and against. And this metric kind of strips away puck luck, goaltending, high shooting percentages, and show which teams are actually controlling the play. And this is particularly apparent at 5-on-5 because it measures the share of scoring chances a team creates versus what they allow during the majority of the gameplay, right? Majority of the game is played 5-on-5. Now, the Bruins do take a lot of penalties, so much of their gameplay is killing penalties, unfortunately, which skews things. But they also have a pretty high-end power play right now. So we'll take a look at the all situations numbers in a minute. But at 5-on-5, like I said, the Bruins have scored 98 goals, and they've allowed 89. But based on shot attempt numbers, shots, scoring chances, high danger scoring chances. So we're looking at the number of shot attempts, the number of actual shots on goal, plus kind of those high danger opportunities, legit scoring chances, high danger chances. The Bruins' expected goals 5-on-5, it's a different story. They're at 91.5 expected goals for and 107 against. That's a pretty big swing. That's going from 98.4 to 91 expected. So they're scoring 7 or 6.5 more goals than expected. And they're going from 89 allowed to 107.47 expected. That's like 18 more goals, or 18 goals expected above what's actually happening. That's a huge, huge difference. Right now, in terms of expected goals at 5-on-5, the Boston Bruins are 29th in the NHL with a differential of 45.98. But then if you go to actual goal differential, they rank 8th. So how can that be? Well, you have to look really at a couple of factors. One, at 5-on-5, their team save percentage is top 10 at 91.21. And when it comes to shooting percentage, they are also 10th in the NHL at 10.22. So they're overperforming at 5-on-5. And that shows up in their PDO, which is counting their shooting percentage, save percentage. Basically, it should level off around an even 100. Right now, save percentage 91.2. Shooting percentage is 10.22, so it's around 101.4, which means that they have had high-end goaltending, which is really saving their bacon. And we've seen that on display, especially over the last 3 games with Joonas Korpisalo stepping up with some quality starts, Jeremy Swayman having some quality starts, and they're getting pretty good success when it comes to shooting percentage. You look at the New Jersey Devils, who have a terrible goal differential. Their shooting percentage is 7.18. Now, if we kick it up to all strengths, we see that it's a pretty similar story for the Boston Bruins. The Bruins' goal differential in all strengths is currently ranked 14th in the NHL. They have scored 150 goals, and they've allowed 145. Their goal total is boosted by a top 5 power play, but they're also allowing a lot of goals on the penalty kill because they take way too many penalties. Still, goals for percentage, they have a ranking of 14th, which puts them level with the Edmonton Oilers. But in terms of expected goals in all situations, the Bruins are, again, 29th in the NHL. Expected goals for 141. So that's 9 below, or 8.5 below what they've actually achieved. And expected goals against 164, which is like almost 20 above what they've actually achieved. That's a huge swing in terms of what has actually happened and what has been expected. And again, you can chalk that up to a pretty good shooting percentage. Their shooting percentage right now is 6th in the NHL. Save percentage in all situations is a bit further down. They are 13th, but their PDO in all situations, they are currently 6th. So that tells us, and especially compared to their expected goals, their defense isn't quite as good as we thought it was. In fact, it's pretty bad. They're allowing way more shots, scoring chances, and high danger opportunities than the offense is able to generate. So the puck is in the Bruins zone more often than not, but they are scoring at a high enough rate to offset those defensive deficiencies, and they're getting that goaltending that is keeping them in the mix. And added up, 12% shooting in all situations, 89.45 save percentage in all situations. So their PDO is currently at 101.5, which suggests that they're playing above their actual talent level at the moment, which means we could very well get some regression here as the season continues. So all that to put in context what's coming up, the Eastern Conference Power Rankings. We'll take a look at where the Bruins stand, and then we'll also preview tonight's very big game against the Detroit Red Wings. What a wildcard weekend we just witnessed in the NFL, and we are officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Just open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to get even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Thank you for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day, and thank you for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't done so already, please check out our Everydayer Club. It's brand new here in 2026. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Bruins, which is compatible with major podcast apps. You'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. I also like to jump in on the fantasy group chat as well. Go to lockedonbruins.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, so based on everything that was discussed in the first segment, the Bruins have a positive goal differential right now, which was boosted by this weekend's very lopsided performance against the New York Rangers, plus that 1-0 shutout of the Penguins. They went from -9 to +6. But in terms of expected goals, both 5-on-5 and in all situations, the Bruins are probably exceeding expectations at the moment, or exceeding what the underlying numbers tell us about this team. They tell us that they're very leaky defensively. They give up a lot of scoring chances. They're regularly outshot, and the goaltending is really saving their bacon at the moment. They're being propped up by a top 5 power play, and the secondary scoring has really stepped up as well, which is kind of unexpected. If you look at goal differential in the Eastern Conference right now, we're going to rank these teams by goal differential. You have the Blue Jackets, the Devils at -20, The Blue Jackets at minus 18, the Rangers at minus 17. By far the worst teams in terms of goal differential so far this season in the East. Then you have the Ottawa, and if you look at point percentage, those three teams are three of the four teams below the Bruins in the standings. There's 5 teams with negative goal differentials in the Eastern Conference, and 4 of them are the 4 teams below Boston in terms of point percentage. And the other team, the Florida Panthers, just slightly ahead of the Bruins in point percentage. So right now you have, again, New Jersey, Columbus, the Rangers, the Senators, and the Panthers, all with negative goal differentials so far this season. Then you have the Philadelphia Flyers, who are at +1. The Detroit Red Wings at +4, tonight's opponent. We'll talk about them coming up later on. The Pittsburgh Penguins, who the Bruins beat, at +5. The Buffalo Sabres, who are ahead of the Bruins in terms of point percentage, at +5. Right now, if you rank these teams in the East by goal differential, you have a clear number 1 team right now in the Tampa Bay Lightning. 40 plus 43 right now, and they have the top point percentage in the Eastern Conference at .670. Next, you have the Carolina Hurricanes, well down the list at +19, but still they are also second in terms of point percentage. This is where things get a little wonky. You have the Washington Capitals at +17, but in terms of point percentage, they are tied with the Bruins at .565. Then you have the New York Islanders at +9, the Toronto Maple Leafs at +9, and the Bruins are tied with the Montreal Canadiens at +6, despite being 6 points behind them in the standings. So what this tells us is the Washington Capitals are probably better than their current 52 points, .565 point percentage, and maybe the Red Wings aren't as good as their 60 points would suggest either. And if you look at expected goals at all strengths, ranking these teams, you see that Tampa Bay is number 3 in the NHL. You have the Carolina Hurricanes at number 2. Of course, the Colorado Avalanche, number 1, because they're the best team, and what you see is what you get with this team. Now, interestingly, the Ottawa Senators are 5th in the NHL in expected goals. Why are they near the bottom of the East in terms of, well, they are at the bottom in terms of points, -7 goal differential. Well, they have not been getting the goaltending at all. In fact, their save percentage this season is worst in the NHL. So that shows you the importance of goaltending. You have to have that goaltending in order to stay afloat. The Pittsburgh Penguins are 6th in the NHL in terms of expected goals. They too have some issues in terms of secondary scoring. The Red Wings are 8th. The Panthers 9th. They're outside of the playoffs right now. Capitals in 10th. The Bruins are the bottom team in the Eastern Conference when it comes to expected goal differential. So while they are currently in the mix for a wild card spot, and tonight's game against the Detroit Red Wings is pretty huge, they could catapult them to 54 points, which would, pending results of other games, put them in a playoff spot. We can't read too much into their current win streak or their +6 goal differential because they're playing well above what the underlying numbers suggest. The underlying numbers suggest the Bruins are not a very good team when it comes to defense. Actual goal differential is +6. The expected goal differential is -23. That's a 20 Almost 30 goal discrepancy between how the Bruins have actually performed and how they should have performed based on the quality of shots they've taken and allowed. And in a typical NHL season, minus 23 goal differential would have a team buried near the bottom of the standings, like 25th to 28th. Instead, the Bruins are right in there in terms of a playoff spot. Saving grace has been goaltending. Jeremy Swayman, even Joonas Korpisalo as of late, have really stepped up when in all situations, the Bruins defensive system pretty leaky, like extremely leaky. We're talking like plug a hole here, and the whole dam's about to explode. They're giving up a high volume of high danger chances, but their goalies are performing very well to mask those mistakes. What's helping them too is the power play. They are playing very well. Steve Spott delivers a lot of credit. The power play is keeping them alive, helping them survive. That's even despite the 0-for-6 they posted against the Penguins the other day. In the analytics world, 30th or 29th ranked expected goal share is a flashing red light. These teams rarely make the playoffs, and if they do, they're almost always first-round exits. The numbers tell us the Bruins are spending the majority of their games pinned in their own zone, relying on one-and-done offensive rushes and high-end goaltending in order to stay competitive. The current standings tell us that the Bruins look like a resilient, battle-tested playoff contender, but the expected numbers tell us this is a team that's, a few bad goaltending performances away from a pretty big free fall. So that's kind of where we are right now heading into tonight's game against the Detroit Red Wings. The Bruins are a pretty big regression candidate in the Eastern Conference. Historically rare for a team to maintain a 28 goal gap between actual and expected goals for an entire 82 game season. The only reason they haven't collapsed yet is goaltending. And we saw that last season. Jeremy Swayman had the worst season of his career, and here they are. That's where they bottomed out. One of the reasons why they bottomed out anyways. He has rebounded this season, and that is one of the big reasons why the Bruins are where they are. The standings say they're a borderline playoff team, but the analytics say they're a team in trouble. Jeremy Swayman playing at a very high level, and if his save percentage drops back towards league average, they could fall out of a playoff spot here before the Olympic break begins, or not even out of a playoff spot, but out of playoff contention. Huge game tonight against the Detroit Red Wings, and we'll preview that one here as the podcast continues. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. When your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, they're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number, but your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. It's no surprise Quo is the number one rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. Make this year where no opportunity slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's QUO.com/lockedonnhl. At Quo, no missed calls and no missed customers. All right, let's preview tonight's game between the Detroit Red Wings and our Boston Bruins. Haven't seen anything yet in terms of Morgan Geekie's availability, but hopefully he's able to return from his family emergency and that everything is well with the Geekie clan. They could really use him, and they could really use a return to form because he has gone 7+ games now without a goal, sitting on 25 for the season. The Bruins, winners of 3 in a row here heading into tonight's game, of course. The Detroit Red Wings are winners of 4 in a row. So this is 2 hot teams coming in and meeting each other in a very competitive Atlantic division. Right now, the Bruins are sitting behind this team, of course, and despite winning 3 in a row, still technically on the outside looking in. But David Pastrnak, who was named the NHL's 3rd star of the week, is red hot with 11 points in his past 5 games. That's more than Alex DeBrincat, who's hot as well. He's got 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points in his last 5 games. Boston's leading goal scorer over the past 5 games, unexpected, Fraser Minen. He's got 4 goals, while Pasternak's got 9 assists and 2 goals to lead the way. This is the 3rd of 4 meetings between these 2 teams this season. The Bruins won the first one 3-2 in a shootout back on November 29th. Detroit won in Detroit on December 2nd by a score of 5-4. So both games have been very tight. And the tail of the tape here, pretty even between these 2 teams. The Bruins right now are 6th on the power play, 24.6% success rate. The Red Wings 5th at 24.7%. And on the penalty kill, pretty even as well. Bruins 79.2% for 18th. The Red Wings 79.5%. They rank 16th. The Bruins are scoring more goals on average than the Red Wings. And for the first time this season, the Bruins are actually scoring more goals than they're allowing. 3.26 goals per game. And that's boosted, of course, by the 11 goals they scored over 2 games this past weekend. They're allowing 3.15, ranking 8th in offense, 21st in defense. Again, going back to the expected goals versus actual goals, we've seen the Bruins getting contributions up and down the lineup. First line, second line, third line, even the fourth line chipping in offensively, and that's really helping boost this team. Red Wings, 3.13 goals per game, which is 16th. Defensively, 3.04. So you see there, even not looking at expected goals, anything like that, the Red Wings rank 16th in goals for and against, and yet they're one of the top teams in the Atlantic Division. It shows you kind of that discrepancy there. League-wide, the Red Wings, they have the 5th most points in the NHL, but 16th when it comes to goals for and against. Something is not adding up there. They're getting pretty good goaltending these days from John Gibson, and they're getting some pretty good scoring as well from guys like Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, etc. Top scorers, DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin for this team. The Bruins rank 10th in the conference, 15 in the NHL, and that's despite, having an 8th ranked offense, but their defense 21st, and that's actual goals. We're not even talking about expected goals like we did earlier. This will be the 624th regular season matchup between these 2 clubs. Bruins have a record of 261, 262, 95, and 5, so it's pretty even. And again, this season, only a shootout decision and a 1-goal game separating these 2 teams. We got some milestones coming up for the Bruins. Morgan Geekie is 3 goals away from 100. Sean Kuraly, 2 assists away from 100. David Pastrnak, 3 games away from his 800th career game. Again, 9 assists, 2 goals, 11 points in his last 5 games, tied for 2nd in the NHL for points in January, which is a great thing for the Boston Bruins, of course. And also, we have Victor Arvidsson, who's playing very well as of late. We have Casey Middlestat, who's really chipping in. And the Boston Bruins benefiting from that kind of secondary scoring that is keeping them afloat really so far this season. What else can we say about this upcoming game? It is a big one. Like, let's not be fooling ourselves. Even though the Bruins are a borderline team, if they can win tonight, I'm not saying everything is hopeless for this team, despite their underlying numbers. You got Victor Arvidsson, Casey Middlestat, each on 4-game point streaks. Eunice Corbasalo playing at a high level. Jeremy Swayman playing at a high level lately. There's an opportunity here for them to make up some ground and really put themselves, like if they can beat Detroit tonight, it would go a long way to proving that they are legit. At the same time, the underlying numbers suggest this team is bound to fall back a little bit, and you've got some pretty hot teams right now in the Tampa Bay Lightning, 10 wins in a row. Maple Leafs have won 4 in a row to jump ahead of the Bruins now. The Bruins, point percentage wise, are 7th in the East or in the Atlantic Division. Only the Ottawa Senators are below them. And again, in the conference as a whole, they rank 12th. So even despite the strong play lately, they're still really not there when it comes to the best teams in the league. All right, that's it for today's episode. I got to jump off for a work meeting. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Tomorrow, we'll recap whatever happens tonight against the Red Wings. Please send me any mailbag questions you have as well. Subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube so you get all the latest. You can find the podcast as well on socials at Locked NHL Bruins. Please consider the Everydayer Club. Get Locked On Bruins ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonbruins.supercast.com to join the club. Check out the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel next. NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.